Hi, this is Mark Arnold, and welcome to another episode of Fun Ideas Podcast. And today we have a returning guest and a new guest. The returning guest is my co-author Mark Slade, who we've worked together
Hey,
on a Crazy Magazine book, and we're now working on a Plop book. New guest is Monte Wolverton, who has a fascinating career of his own, but also his dad, Basil Wolverton, who's this artwork is behind me. He had a fascinating career too. They both worked for Mad Magazine, and but they both did many other things too. So that's what we're going to talk about. And Plop. Anyway, so thank you, Monty. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great. It's Basil, by the way.
Basil. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm going by Basil Faulty. Sorry.
you would answer to either one, but I
Yeah.
think his dad was Canadian, so
Okay.
he pronounced it Basil, and he said
Okay.
sorry. I grew up saying sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, I've heard Canadians say that before, and it's
Yep.
just like Mike Myers does that. He'll say sorry, and then you go, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that
Yeah.
you can tell he's a Canadian. Now, where are you from?
I am from Vancouver, Washington,
Okay,
which is not the Canadian Vancouver, but
right,
the one in the Portland area, the one
right.
where everybody's weird. Um, and we kind of a suburb of Portland. And as you get out into the woods, it gets more weird with flags from one particular party.
Uh,
And my neighbors have guns, so I feel safe, sort of. But um, anyway, I spent 36 years in Los Angeles, so I'm kind of a citizen of the West Coast.
okay. So you're currently in Vancouver now, or
I am currently in Vancouver. I've been here since 2010,
okay?
2010,
So you're not
out in the
too far
woods.
from you're not too far from me. I'm in Springfield, Oregon. So
Ah, Springfield,
yeah,
yes.
next to Eugene.
Uh,
So
my father actually lived there when he was young.
very
In
cool.
you know where Leeburg is, right?
I believe so. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They had a house in Leeburg.
Hmm. And I've been to Vancouver before, but not recently. Probably about 7, 8 years ago was the last time. But
Okay.
Portland's like always kind of a madhouse nowadays, so I don't like crossing into Washington unless I have to. So, you
Yeah,
know.
Portland's fun. I like Portland. I have to go over there, well, bi-weekly for a fix
Oh,
of
okay.
weirdness.
Okay. Yeah. And it's not that I won't return. I mean, I've been to Powell's Books a few times and everything. So,
Howell's books,
yeah.
yes.
Anyway. All right. Well, I will hand the mic over, as it were, to Mark Slade because he has some questions he's drawn up, and we'll begin.
well, all right. Well, let me see. Uh, let's see. Well, when did you pick up a pencil, Monty?
When did I pick up a pencil? My dad built me a little drawing board when I was like, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old. And then I think I'd picked up a pencil before that, but he wanted to encourage me. Uh, so yeah, I was drawing lots of little things. I think I had a tried to do a little comic strip for my elementary school, Peter Ogden Elementary School, and I think we called it a couple of us called it the Ogden Cartoona paper. And so that was probably the first thing, although I don't have any examples of that anywhere. And then uh, did stuff in high school. Not so much comics, but big. I remember doing big giant decorations for dances and things like that. And 70-foot wide octopuses for an underwater themed dance, I think. Then uh, went to college in Southern California and worked in their art department. And that was the beginning of my training in graphics and graphic design and illustration. Worked on had a little comic strip for the college's paper, and and then after that I was in graphic design, and then started doing cartoons and stuff, but nothing published. And then, so I'm giving you a summary of my career, such as it was. After 7 years of working there, I moved back to the Pacific Northwest and freelanced for a while. Did features for what was it, Peterson Publishing,
Yeah, cartoons
there.
magazine. Yes, sir.
Grounds, did the back cover of little things here and there. A lot of local commercial illustration and stuff.
Right,
And,
right. How did you get to Cartoons Magazine, though? That's another interest of mine on humor magazines.
I think I had a bunch of a little portfolio that I'd put together of caricatures and stuff, and I sent them to various publications. That would have been in the early 70s, because I wanted to get into more cartoons, and sent one to Cartoons Magazine, and they said, yeah, fine. So I did a few things for them over the years.
Right.
And
great magazine.
Another magazine called Creative Computing. That and I think CB Radio S9 magazine that
Oh wow, that's kind of cool.
Cartoons related to CB Radio. So that was my kind of regular shtick for a while. Then when I moved back up here in was that 77, I worked for a t-shirt company, did a bunch of t-shirts. So all the things that cartoonists do to try to make a living.
Right.
And ultimately ending up with having to do some actual graphic design work or something else on the side that actually makes money.
Yeah. If I find some PDFs of your work in cartoons and the CB magazine, can I send them to you?
Why would you do that?
Oh, I just thought it would be interesting for you to see.
Of course you can.
Okay. I might be able to find them. I think I could find the cartoons, especially. I don't know about the CB magazine, but I'll look. I just find that stuff interesting, But I mean, you just answered like 2 or 3 of my questions, which is great. Oh, okay.
I have a question based on, you're talking about getting into these things in the early 70s, and to tie it into Plop, your dad was contributing the drawings for the covers to Plop around the same time. Were you paying attention to his career while you were working on your own, or were you like in totally different worlds at that point?
No, I was paying attention. Yeah.
Okay.
I see. I just looked back in his journals to see what kind of comments he had about Plop, if any, because usually even if you go back in his journals when he was working for like Mad in the early years, when he was doing stuff for Harvey Kurtzman, there's very little terse entries in there. I mean, in his journals, he would talk about, even back in the 40s, I worked on this and that, and then he'd make a note when he sent it off. And it was all mixed in amongst how many cucumbers he got out of his garden and stuff like that. It was like, So yeah, there is an entry in early, I think it's January 2nd, 1973, about a guy called me from National Periodicals, didn't say who it was, and wanted some cartoons. Then you follow the next few days, and amongst all the other stuff, went shopping, blah blah blah. There's worked on some cartoons, and then at the end mailed some cartoons, a couple of weeks later to National Periodicals. That was it.
Oh, okay.
No big explanation, or so.
Were they inventory?
Were they
inventory drawings? Were they inventory drawings or stuff he actually drew especially for them?
Stuff he drew especially for them.
Oh wow! Okay. See,
with the intent of putting them on the cover.
Yeah. See, the research that I had is wrong. I had a feeling that was wrong.
which was, well, as far as I know, I could be wrong. I was wrong once,
No, I think you're
but I thought I
right.
was wrong, but wasn't. What?
I think you're right. I think because research from internet is never right.
Yeah. And
What does your
I think
research say?
the
Sorry.
style for those things, the reason he got that gig was because of the Tops work that he'd done in the 60s.
Okay.
So
Okay.
they're all the same kind of thing, except
Yeah.
and a small point, if this is boring, you can edit it out. His arm was getting kind of shaky. And I was working, in the corporate art department, and we had rapidographs. And I thought, oh, cool, rapidographs. My dad would like a set of rapidographs. So I think I gave him a set of rapidographs for Father's Day or something. And that would have probably been in the mid 60s, late 60s. And he thought, oh, wow, rapidographs. I can, I think all the time I wasted dipping my nib in the inkwell, and now I can just draw with this rapidograph. But there's some entries in his diary that says pen not working and needs to be unclogged. So, if you remember rapidographs, it came with a whole other set of problems that, frequently they got clogged and didn't work. However, the issue here is that his style changed when he started using the rapidographs. Before that, you had the thick and thin of that you could get with a crow quill type pen or a standard nib. The rapidograph, you can't get that. It's just one thickness. So then he would have to go in and do more cross hatching to get the shading or to kind of thicken up some of the lines. But I think it worked better for him because the control of his arm was better, and it was getting a little shaky, but it kind of all worked in the style. I mean, if you look at his style in the like the early 50s, everything's pretty smooth, and it gets a little, as it gets into the 70s, it gets a little rougher, but it still works. It's all part of the thing.
Right. I think y'all share a style. I mean, you got your style, but it's really blended with his as well. Do you think
I
that's
kind of
just in the
started with that.
DNA? Do
What's
you
that?
think that's the DNA? Is
No, I
that
think
just
it's
in?
because when I started doing cartoons, I didn't know what else to do. So
Oh,
that's what I did.
okay. Okay.
I thought, well, I'll just do this and see where it goes and cover up my
Right.
lack of talent with all these little shadings.
You know what
Well,
thing
I don't think.
I just have to interrupt here. The first thing I saw your work, Monty, and you might remember this, is this thing, a package of juggling scarves where there were scarves that you could juggle with instead of balls, and
Yeah,
you had the drawing on the cover. And that was the first time I saw your name, and I said, Monty Wolverton. Who's that? It's like, is that his brother, his son, his what? I don't know. I don't know Monty because I knew Basil from Plop and Mad and other things. So,
I can't
um,
I can't remember how I got that gig. I did a bunch of things for him. I did,
yeah,
scarf juggling instructions. That's the one I did.
yeah.
They had a licensing agreement with W.C. Fields family. So I did a W.C. Fields box juggling
Hmm.
thing. And oddly, this is another rambling story that you can edit out if you want to. Uh, Robert Armstrong, right?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, of Zap Comics
Yep.
fame
Yep. Yep.
and of Cheap Suit Serenaders, Robert Crumb's band.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was up here, and he had a musical gig up the river at Hood River. So I went up there, and he had this great musical gig. He plays the saw, and he does all kinds of stuff, and this dude comes out as part of the performance, and he starts juggling these cigar boxes and stuff. And I'm like, he's a professional juggler. So I talked to him afterwards. I talked to him and Robert backstage, and I said, where'd you get your juggling instruction? And he said, oh, yeah, I went to Juggle Bug Incorporated, and they had these instructions with cigar boxes and stuff. And I said, yeah, I did those. So that's a story.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I don't know how I got that. I think it was because I was doing T-shirts or something, and somebody referred me to him, and I did several projects for him.
Okay. Because I just remember, I guess they were ideal for kids of age 10 or so, because I seem to get all sorts of those type of things as gifts for birthdays and Christmas and stuff,
Yeah.
and they'd have your name on it. And it's like, oh, I like this guy. He's just as good as his dad. I like this.
Well,
So,
yeah, you flatter me.
all right. That's what we want to do here.
Okay.
I have a quick question, then we'll hand it back to Margaret. Doing a cover like the one behind me is, since I have it, is issue 1 of Plop. And then on your own type of work, how long did it take there we go. How long did it take Basil to do a cover like that? A drawing like that?
Probably a couple of, I mean, he broke up his work, but probably a couple of days
Okay.
over, if he was working 8 hours a day.
And did he
Maybe more.
tend to pencil and ink and do everything, or how did he do it? I mean, was he really tight in his pencils, or what?
No, he was not really tight in his pencils. He might have done, not for this, because he didn't have to get a rough approved, I don't think, for Plop. He just did them and sent them in. He would do he might do a little sketch, or he might not do a little sketch. He might just do a pencil on Strathmore, and then use a real thin nib to put in the basic lines, and then once he was happy with that, then a thicker nib to do the outlines, and then start doing all the cross hatching and shading and stuff.
Okay. So when you first saw his art as a child, I mean, how did you react? Were you frightened by it, or were you like drawn right to it?
I thought it was fascinating. I mean, he had it might have been a little frightening. He had, in the house we lived in, he had a studio in the basement, and there was like a single light bulb down there. It was kind of creepy and stuff. And he was working on I just remember some really weird looking faces. It could have been maybe at that time early Mad stuff. I don't know.
Okay.
And he was also working on his apocalyptic stuff, Book of Revelation, fire falling down from the sky and people having boils and dying and stuff. So yeah, I just kind of remember it being as a bit creepy, but fascinating even as a kid.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what? We should probably go right into where maybe you could just give us a brief biography of Basil, if you can, and especially about his work for the church. I think that's interesting, to be honest.
I would refer people to if they're interested. Now, if they're really interested, they could do Greg Sadowski's biography, which is out in, let's see, I can't remember which is which. Creeping Death from Neptune, and
yes,
and the other one.
I saw that. I saw it on Amazon.
Oh, I have this one, the second one, Brain Bats of Venus.
Brain Bats of Venus. That's right.
I haven't got the first one yet. I got the second one first, strangely enough. So,
it is. Anyway. I worked with him on that. I did like 1 million scans and stuff, and he had access to my father's journals, and he did just a ton of research. So
cool.
And if there were questions, we kind of talked about it and said, well, we don't know really what happened, but write it that way, and that'll be the definitive answer for everybody.
Right on.
There's only a couple of times we did that, really. that gives all the details, but in this thing that was published by Fantagraphics, I don't know, that 7-8 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah. I don't
That
have
has
that.
a really good summary in it. in the introduction by Grant Geisman, and then I do another basic summary here. So that, that's in print, but he started out, got his first art published at age 16. I think it was a one panel kind of thing. And then what he really wanted to do was a comic strip. He kept sending in these comic strip proposals to syndicates, and he did get a contract. He got a contract for a strip called Marco of Mars. Don't ask me without. I'd have to look in here.
Was that the one that they thought was too close to John Carter Mars?
Well, or Buck Rogers.
Buck Rogers.
I think it was Buck Rogers. So everything was go, and he was all set, and he was, drawing comic strips and getting ready to go. And they sent him a letter. I have the letter someplace. Actually, the letter is probably I sent a lot of his papers to the Billy Ireland Museum, boxes of them. So it's actually back there. They said, well, Marco's on Mars, but Buck Rogers is going to Mars. So we can't have, more than one comic character going to Mars.
That makes no sense.
I guess we'll have to cancel, which is just weird, in retrospect.
Yeah.
What they were thinking is, it sounds like a ripoff because you got your guy going to Mars too.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So that didn't go anywhere. But there are a bunch of strips out there that are extant and have been published in various publications and are sitting in people's collections. So then after that, the comic books were about to emerge. And let me just look here. Disguise, the Detective and Space Hawks were published in 1938 in Circus Comics. So the thing was there, I think it was the late 20s when he got his late 20s or early 30s when he got his contract with the syndicate, and it was several years later before he actually got stuff in comic books. And the original comic books, some people may disagree with me, were, repaging of Sunday comics.
Yes.
And then they started looking for original material to put in comic books shortly after that. And so this was the answer. So that was the beginning of his kind of, and before that, he was trying other stuff. He spent like 6 months in Hollywood in 1936, trying to get a job with, or a steady job doing caricatures for, I can't remember the name of the paper, Hollywood, a Hollywood industry rag. But that never turned out. So he came back home and put his whole effort into comic books. So,
Right.
and then after that, you got Space Hawk, singular, and all the other features through the 30s and 40s.
That's cool. That's really cool. Should we go ahead and try to do the cover thing now, Mark, or
Sure.
you want to do it later? It's up to
I
you.
can do some covers here. Okay.
Yeah, we wanted to show you some covers to get your comments
Okay.
or reaction to them.
Right.
Yeah, and that's just all the Plop covers. Hold on here. So, and some are rejects. So we've seen Plop one.
I have a stack of them sitting.
Oh, okay. So you've seen them before, but
right here next
yeah,
to
we'll
me.
just kind of go through them. So, do you have any comments about like the first cover or anything? And did he come up with these names like Arms Armstrong, or was that the editors?
I think it was both.
Okay.
I think it was both. Arms Armstrong, would he have done that? Maybe, I don't know, because he was working for Herbert Armstrong at the time. So would he have risked? I don't know. Maybe he did.
Yeah.
No idea.
I have to say this: when I first saw this cover, this is working on my depth perception, as it were. And I was thinking, are these just little two tiny feet hanging from his body, or are these feet way back there in the back, and he's like leaning over? You can kind of see it both ways on
You know,
this.
I actually had the same issue with it. I think, yeah, but
Which I don't know if that's intentional or
I
what,
never
but yeah.
asked him. I always assumed that no, they're two little
Okay.
mutant feet.
All right, we'll go to issue 2 now. Here we go. Arteries.
Arteries. He probably came up with that title.
Did you like
I'm,
did you like pasta?
I think he probably, came up with it after the fact. I think he probably, and a lot of these, I think he probably just did the drawing. And,
Do you
and
know
then
if he had
just
any
kind of
direction on this or
out of
anything
his
like that?
subconscious did the drawing and then came up with a, some kind of semi-rational explanation as to what it was.
Did he have
I,
any direction on this, do you think, or no?
I don't think he did.
Okay.
Or very little. I think they were just happy with whatever he did because
Yeah.
actually there were, no, that was with Tops. There were a couple that were rejected
Yeah.
because they
Well,
were
there's a
just
couple that are rejected here, which we'll get
too
to and I'll
gross.
show you. Yeah.
Okay.
I have a couple plop rejections, but this one's just plop, 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 plop. There's no real name to it with a bunch of little faces in here. Um, Actually, I wanted to say the back covers for people who don't know these, didn't have ads, or the whole issue didn't have ads in the early issues.
Right.
So this full image is on the back cover. So just like a brain or something. I don't know what it is.
I don't think it's it. I think it's just, I'm pretty sure. And I talked with him a little about him. I mean, we didn't sit through and rationalize each one. I mean, he would just, show me these things or send them to me occasionally, and I go, whoa, yeah, cool. Uh, I think he just did them out of his head,
Okay.
and then,
Did,
this one doesn't have any explanation. It's
no,
just,
it doesn't. It's one of the
yeah,
strange ones like
no.
that. Did he do the logo, or is that somebody else at DC?
Somebody else did the logo.
Okay, just want to make sure. It kind of looks Wolverton-ish, if
Yeah.
that's a word, but this one I
Well,
always liked. This is my
oh
favorite.
my, but
Newly.
it looks like it was done by Jay Lynch, but it
Okay.
wasn't by Jay.
Yeah.
It just comes to mind.
Okay. Maybe in research I can figure it out, but we haven't figured it out yet. Newly Nostradamus. This is actually the first issue I ever got of Plop,
Really?
and I was just fascinated with the creatures living in his nostrils. So
Yeah,
I
again,
would stare at these things for hours. I don't know if you did that because
I did. Yeah. Yeah. I thought this is great. Yeah, again, I just think he sitting there late at night and thinking, nostrils, okay, stalactite, bat, spider.
having congestion
Yeah.
problems one night.
Well, yeah, he wasn't feeling very good
Hmm,
during this period of time.
hmm.
So I think this might reflect a little of it.
And this is a silly question, but is he left-handed or right-handed?
Right-handed.
Right-handed, okay. This one's another one that's cut off on the front, but if you get the back cover, I think it has 2 feet like that with the giant gnarly toes like that.
Yeah.
Nails niddle. Any memories on that one?
No specific
Okay.
memories.
All right.
These
Get to
are
number
recent
6 here.
Lance Bunyan excavator. Yeah, that's his. That might have been edited, but that's his text.
Okay. Now, Was it true there was like a ad campaign or something with an airline that had something similar to that? What's the genesis of Fly Me, I'm Josephine?
It rings a bell, but I can't speak to that.
Yeah, that's the only thing I
That
could
was
think of. Yeah,
Well,
that
it
was
is,
my
yeah.
question because
Oh, did that come from that?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it did.
Okay.
oh, okay.
I can't remember the airline, but yeah, they had an ad campaign.
Hmm,
So this was a takeoff on that.
okay.
Whether he wrote that, I don't think he wrote that.
Okay.
I think somebody came up with that after the fact.
And did Basil
And
do let?
here's why he wouldn't have done that, because in spite of all the, the phallic imagery and stuff, it was very socially conservative and would have made no libidinous reference in any of his work.
Ah, okay.
So that's yeah, and the lettering is also,
Yeah.
yeah, but it's still funny.
Would he get
With a little
frustrated with
radar thing in
this?
her head. What?
Would he get frustrated or upset if they did like things like this, add little balloons to his work, or
It it depends. I don't he I don't remember him making any comment about this. There were some other things that he might have made a little bit of comment about.
okay, all right. And then we'll go to number 7. He did the first 10, 12 issues, I think, and then we'll get there and I'll ask you about that. Byron Bird Big Brain the third. It's a little tiny for me, so I like this one too.
Grew his skull shortly after birth. States that his only goal is to stand still and think. My conclusions impressed me so much. He points out that all I can do is continue standing in a state of amazement and let my brain drain. That's his text.
Oh wow, I never knew
Yeah.
he wrote those, so that's great.
I think he wrote some of them, and I think
Okay.
they wrote other, but I'm 90% sure this is his text just because of the words.
Okay. Well, the fact that he wrote them at all, even if it got edited or something
Uh,
like that, is fascinating to me because I just figured he just turned in the drawing and let it go, and that was the end of it. But he was a little more actively involved than I thought. So,
Yeah, no, but again, I think he just did the drawing out of his head and then came up with a sort of a text afterwards.
mhm. All right, number 8 coming up.
Billy Button.
Billy Button,
Anyway, we're
Shutterbug.
most celebrated naval as Billy Button comes engaged with a 100-inch Mount Wilson Observatory lens. Is a famous freelance photographer, spy, who has worked for the Democratic National Convention, college riots. Oh, that's almost political. Uh, Washington marches. Yes,
Oh,
that's kind of political. Uh, and my father was conservative.
hmm.
He was apolitical, but he had conservative leanings, unlike myself.
That was going to be one of my questions to you, Monty, is
Yep.
that which way he leaned. And wow, that almost comes back to nowadays, doesn't it?
Sorta. I don't think he would have liked the big talking yam though at all. My
We'll leave it at
my
that. Yes.
my uh my grandmother was a really hardline Republican, and she wouldn't have liked him. She was an Eisenhower Republican. Of course,
Yeah.
Eisenhower would have
Ah,
been a Democrat now, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Both
but anyway,
parties have,
yeah,
kind
yeah.
have
So
definitely
it
changed over the years. Yeah.
it comes out a little in little comments like this.
Yeah.
right.
Was Basil? Sorry, I'm gonna say it wrong forever. Was Basil a photographer?
Yeah, yeah, he
Okay.
was. Yeah,
Okay.
got a
So
little,
that
yeah, little Rico,
explain that. Yeah.
and did tons of slides. Before that, he had a 16 millimeter Bolex camera that he at times used when he did a series of caricatures. I think that was in the late 40s for a local radio station, KGW.
Hmm.
Um, he went over and just did films of their staff and then used that from all different angles and used that to create the caricatures. It was kind of a promotional thing that they had. So yeah, I got a ton of his films, home movies and stuff. He even did little animations and
Oh
things.
wow.
Uh and uh and then later in life he did a lot of slides. So yeah, this probably comes out of that.
All right. The number 9 here again, one without a caption. Do you think he might have submitted one, they rejected it, or what was the story on this? If you know anything.
I don't know. I don't know the story. I've always wondered about that.
Okay.
Why is there no
And
caption? Because
yeah, yeah.
maybe he didn't maybe he didn't write one, or maybe they thought it was too corny or something. Who knows?
And
It could have
then
been.
this is another one where it's a larger picture sideways on the back,
Yep.
because it's one of the last ad issues or non-ad issues, I should say. This is the last non-ad issue. It was number 10 with Fietz Flegel.
This is reminiscent of some of the somewhat earlier stuff that he did in uh, for like Cracked, I think, and other little features that were kind of never published of people with odd anatomies.
Mhm.
In fact, all of these are, except they're way more extreme, I think.
Did he ever go through his archive to come up with like a new concept and just say, well, I need to do one. I'm kind of stuck on ideas. Let me look at what I've done before and maybe I can get a new idea.
I never remember him commenting about
Okay.
that. He
Okay.
would just meditate on cartoons. And he used the word meditate and then start doing them.
Huh. Now, and he would draw these like one at a time. He didn't just dash off a bunch of them all at once, or did he?
One at a time,
One at
not
a time. Yeah.
sequentially. No, not at the same time.
Right. Okay. I didn't know if he was just like, I'll send them 5 now and 5 later or whatever. It's just one at a time, like you said. So, okay. All right. Number 11. Yeah, this is the first issue that has advertising. You wouldn't know from the cover, but no Wolverton on the back cover anymore. So, Asher, Crasher, and Basher.
Rock Azul. Uh,
I guess what was Basil's taste in music? That would beg that question.
oh, okay. I got his 78
Yeah.
albums in there. He's got a lot of Bing Crosby, Benny Goodman sextet, Frankie Carl, who was a pianist. Uh, who else? I was kind of raised on uh, Scott Joplin.
Hmm.
He'd get out the record player, this old 78 thing, and plug it in and listen to these um, player piano and Nickelodeon recordings. Um, so he liked that kind of stuff. He kind of liked jazz piano. He liked Dixieland jazz, but he didn't understand progressive jazz.
Hmm.
Um, Occasionally we would play classical music. I remember in when I had a rock band in high school, I was playing something, and he said, and his thing was he thought it was good for me to get up on the stage because he'd been in vaudeville um, in the late 20s, and he toured around on the Northwest circuit. They had a circuit. The whole troupe would kind of go on a train and go up to Seattle and Tacoma and down the coast and back and stuff. And his act was called Goof in His Youth. He'd play these little ditties and stuff, and he had his bow tie arranged so that it would jiggle up and down with his Adam's apple. And yeah, he wanted to do that, or I think he kind of wanted to be an actor, but being a cartoonist or a comic strip artist or is the next best thing, he thought.
Right.
So yeah, that was his kind of taste. It kind of came out of the 40s, but remember him listening to something we did or something I was playing from, you know, but in the early 60s, and he said, "So you think this is quality music, huh?" I said, "Well, yeah, I think it is."
Did he listen? Did he listen to music when he drew, or no?
Yeah, yeah. He
Okay.
listened to music. He listened to either music or he liked to listen to soap operas.
Hmm.
Edge of Night.
Wow.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Uh, it kind of, you know, kept the other side of his brain occupied while he was doing spatial and right brain things, I think.
Right. Almost
Well,
looks like
he did some recordings himself.
There were well, he sold his uke and his banjo and all his stuff years ago, and then he bought a harmony ukulele, which I have. Hold on.
I'll switch to the next picture while he's going. So we have
Okay.
something new to look at. Number 12, Messy Tessie, but we'll talk about this one. Monty gets back. I like the teeth going
Can
through
you
the
see
tongue.
this?
Anyway,
You can see this, right?
yes.
Yes.
Okay. That was his ukulele. He did, we had a reel-to-reel tape recorder, and he did like, I think 4 recordings on that, just, you know, sitting at home alone doing this thing. I think, has anybody seen my gal or something like that? And then, so I had those. And then years later, after he died, Ray Zone, a guy who did 3-dimensional comics, you may remember him. I happened to mention it to him, and he said, "Hey, I'd like to take those and put them on a 45 RPM or a 45 RPM size record. I think maybe it was 33 RPM, but it had 4 tracks on it. So yeah, that's been published.
Sympathy for the record industry. I think they
Huh?
put it out. I
What's
think
that?
Sympathy for the Record Industry, 1992. I think they put it out.
Sounds about right.
Oh, I was wondering if you had a copy of it.
I do.
Oh, okay. No,
Yeah.
I was just asking because
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that
Very
he
cool.
did that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
He's not the only one. I mean, the other artist that did the cover, the later covers for Plop, Wally Wood, he did
Yeah.
a CD as well. Well, it became a CD. I have it, you know, of just some recordings he did. So
I didn't know that. I
yeah,
did some brief correspondence with him, and of course, you know, Wally's in these other later Plop covers.
right. Let me ask you about that, even though we're going to talk about 12. So Wally Wood came in to do some of the covers, and then it kind of alternated Basil and Wally for a while. What was the reason for that?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. I
It
was
may have been because let's see, he was
We're about
doing this in
1975
1974.
now. This is about 75.
The
Yeah.
last entry, let's see, 72. I misspoke earlier. The first entry I see about Plop in his journals is December 21, 1972.
Sounds about right.
So he had a debilitating stroke in 74. I think it was the summer of 74.
Okay.
So he just couldn't produce anymore.
Okay. Because
And
the
that
cover
may
I
have
have up here now, the cover date is May 75, but I'm sure he turned it in prior to that.
That's right. Yeah.
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 So, any comments about Messy Tessie with the teeth through the tongue?
Messy Tessie. Holds the world's record for going steady. It attributes her success with boys that are distracted. Features. Everything you have count, she advises. I think that was probably his text.
Yeah.
But she's not on the back. And
Yeah.
actually her feet are cut off there.
Yeah. I'm wondering if the feet were a little too extreme for the comics code.
Well, I don't know. I just don't know. Well, you can't be any worse than the nose, can you?
Now, who has the who has the original art of these? Are those like lost, or does DC have them, or are they heritage, or?
DC does not have them. They were returned to him, and they're in somebody's collection,
Oh,
possibly
okay,
Glenn Bray's collection.
okay. Because it'd be fascinating to get the uncut drawing if there is like something more on the feed or something for something like this to reproduce for our book. Anyway, um, let's see. Going on. So let's see. Wallywood did the next one, and 13. Then 14 was another Basil. So
By the way,
Basil.
if you want that for your book, I can just leave this out and make a note to look through his archives and see if I have copies of that.
Okay. All right. Um, Darlin Daisy Dalrymple, July 1975. So here we are. Let's see. It's hard for me to read them, but I'm just trying to see if it says anything. Um,
The Belle of the Batty Belfry set. Happy Hobby is doubling as famous movie stars in close-up smile shots. I don't know if he would maybe, I don't know. I can't
so,
tell if he wrote that.
so did he do any covers or anything after 74, or would all these be from 74 and before?
All those would have been from 74 and before.
Okay. All right. Then there's 2 issues again with Wallywood, and then the next one is number 17. And this was a Tonsils Thompson, which I always liked. I guess I always liked it when he made large nostrils or large tonsils or large anything.
Something tells me that this isn't complete, and I don't know why. I
How so?
mean, there may have been more because of the way the neck just terminates in that hole,
Oh, I see. Yeah.
I don't know. I'll have to see what I have on that.
Okay. Did he might it? Did he ever submit any unfinished stuff? Like, were they demanding more things, and he says, "I can't draw anymore, but I have this," or you know, anything
Uh,
unfinished?
no, not that I
Oh,
know of.
okay. All right. All right. And then I think this is the last official cover, but I have a couple more after this. Number 18, no text. Although it's interesting, there's dollar bills flying around from this creature jumping from assuming a tall building. It says Basil Wolverton and Jack Adler at the bottom, which is interesting too. I don't know
Okay.
if he added the bills or something like that. So
Yeah, the bills and probably
the sweat.
photo and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what the photo is too. I assume it's the Manhattan skyline of some sort.
Somewhere in New York. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Now the next one, this one actually appeared inside. I might have to make it larger here. Let's see if I can make it larger here. Let's do 1,000. See if that works. Okay. Nope. No, 500. It says is the max. Okay. Okay. Oops, that's a little too large. Okay. Let's go split the difference. 200. There we go. Okay. Oops, that didn't even do it. Okay. Let's close that and start again. Don't save. Okay. We'll leave it alone. Okay, so this one, you can't see it very well, but it was inside plop number 24. So I guess my question always is, if he wasn't doing new ones, did he just submit them just on a regular basis, whether they used them or not, and then they had a little bit of a surplus for later use, or what would
Yes, I think that's what happened.
Okay. Because it's kind of surprising they would have one left over at such a late date unless that exactly happened. So, unless they're
And that
asking for other drawings that he didn't specifically do for Plop. So,
and that was sometimes his way of working with Timely Comics.
okay.
They didn't publish everything that he did. And they had some I think some Powerhouse Peppers left over.
Okay.
which they published in Humorama Publications.
I think I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the next two I have two rejects that I found over the years. This one is pretty obvious why it probably was rejected because of the gun.
Okay.
But
That
do you know
makes sense.
anything about that particular one here? It doesn't
No, I
have a
don't,
number.
and I'm
Or,
having trouble seeing it because it's very small. Let's see
oh,
if I
it's large on my screen, but I don't know if I can make.
I've probably seen this before, but it's been years since I've seen it.
Yeah, it's like a little creature. He is holding a gun upside down above his head, and he's like a little nude guy with a cowboy hat. You know, there's not much to it, but it doesn't look like something that they would have accepted very easily. So because of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
gun and
it's
the
probably
guy's nude.
problematic.
Yeah. Okay. And then I got one
What's
more. Okay. I hope you can see this one. This one again doesn't have any number associated with it or anything. But it's a guy with like hammers for thumbs or something and pistons for knuckles or something.
That's weird. Why would that have been rejected?
Yeah.
I can see the gun thing being rejected, but I can't.
Yeah. Unless wood was coming through faster with, as a choice between this or wood.
That could have been, yeah.
Yeah. And, okay. All right. I just was kind of curious about those because, don't hear anything about. Let's bring this back. I'll stop sharing and we'll go from there. Okay, there we go. Thank you. Let's see.
Well, I have a question about one of the features that was in, I think, issue 4, Doc Rock Block. It was like
Rock Block.
Yeah, it was in issue 4. It was his story and art.
I'm just looking this up. Bear with me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's the only interior story he did.
Yeah, it's about
Okay.
operating.
I don't have that in front of me. I don't think I have the 2 Plop digests here, which I don't know if they reprinted that in either of these. So, but they did reprint a lot of Wolverton artwork in here. So
It's in number 4, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's where a doctor is operating on somebody. He pulls out a shoe horse.
Here it is. Yes, Doc Rock Block.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, I remember that. Was he commissioned to do that, or did he just do it? And they ran it.
That's what I was wondering.
I think the latter.
Yeah.
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 I think he had an idea and yeah, because it looks like it's about from the same time period.
Okay.
So,
well, I'm certain the DC wouldn't reject anything unless it was too outlandish, like maybe that gun drawing.
Except the lettering is not his. But maybe his lettering might have been a little too shaky, so they redid it.
Oh, okay. So did DC get any negative feedback over the covers?
I never heard anything.
Okay.
They probably did, but I never heard anything back from anybody. I mean, you got lots of other reasons for negative feedback here. You got, well, all of Sergio's work.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So,
that's a real good point.
I'm sure that he took some heat.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'm sure it's a difficult title to keep maintaining in any case because, like even the early rights and stuff has, I believe, some nudity and stuff like that and stuff that wouldn't pass nowadays and stuff like that.
Yeah, but This is from the early 70s.
Yeah.
You remember the 70s?
Oh yeah.
Oh
That's when
yeah.
I was buying Plop. I was a kid.
I don't so much, but
You don't so much.
I do. Yeah, actually, I kind of do, except for parts. Um, but yeah, this shouldn't have been really shocking. I mean,
Yeah.
this is the era of Zap comics too.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
So
And of course, Mad was its most popular and stuff like that. And
yes,
I
yeah,
was reading it too. So, and Sergio was in there. So,
yeah.
um, I wanted to ask you about if you knew. Well, first of all, you said Basil had a stroke. Did he continue his diary after his stroke, or did he stop?
He did not continue his diary after
Oh,
his
okay.
stroke.
Unfortunate.
He couldn't do anything really.
Okay.
Uh, he did a little scribbling and yeah, he had to relearn how to talk and everything. So yeah, I mean, he was okay, but he just couldn't do any artwork. And it was also disappointing for him to do artwork because, if you're doing this stuff and then you sit down and try to do something and just a scribble comes out, that's a bummer.
Right. So this Plop
Right.
work would have been his final works. Then.
Yes,
Yeah.
actually,
Wow.
among them,
Okay. Was he doing anything else at the same time? I don't even think it.
unless he was doing tops
Oh yeah.
in his journals in 73, 74. He seems to be he's doing some re-edits of his Bible story,
Oh yeah.
and he's doing some illustrations for them. So some of those illustrations are done contemporaneous with this, and you can see the stylistic similarities that the anatomy is not what it used to be 10 years previous and stuff like that.
Right. Okay.
So
And I don't want to delve in too much because it might be sensitive for you, but I mean, how was he in those final years? Was he able to speak? He just wasn't able to draw, or what was he like?
yeah, he could talk. He could get, not quickly.
Hmm.
Uh, I remember one time I had my little bathtub Porsche, and I was up visiting, and I guess my wife Katie and my daughter were going to stay here, and I was going to drive back home. And I said, "Oh yeah, I can get from here to Los Angeles in I don't need to stop. It's just 16 hours of driving, which is when you're 24 or whatever, is not a
Yeah.
big thing." And I remember he got upset, and I said, "What's the matter?" And he wrote in crooked lettering on this little piece of paper, "Outrageous." But so I think I stopped halfway through because yeah, okay, fine.
Yeah. I'm actually
Right.
driving to California. That's where I'm from, Northern California, in like a week, less than a week, and yeah, it's 11-hour drive. But I do stop more than I used to. I used to just do it
I
all the
I
way
am
through.
driving next week, beginning next Thursday, all the way across Canada on the Trans Canada Highway, 7 days to Montreal for an editorial cartoonist convention, a joint convention between the Canadian Editorial Cartoonists Association and the American Editorial Cartoonists Association, and then back. So
Wow. Good
that's a
luck.
rather big. I've been across the United States, but maybe I'll do some photography or something, or
Oh, that's cool.
drink some Labatt's and Molson and things that you do in Canada.
I want to
And my
shift
dog,
gear.
my dog gets to stay at a dog hotel in Montreal while I'm doing the convention.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
So
that's
That'll
awesome.
be her
What
high
kind of dog
point.
do you have?
Huh?
What kind of dog do you have?
I have an American Rat Terrier, Decker
Oh,
Oh,
variety. It's a 30
awesome.
pound thing, super, super high
Yeah.
energy. And
Yes.
she's my personal trainer. Me walking, like, what do I do? 3-4 miles a day,
Oh,
yeah,
dang.
which is not, which is okay at 76.
yeah.
Most of my friends are dead and they don't
Oh,
walk that I know about.
Yes. All right. I want to switch it back to you for a little bit. So I don't know if you're aware of this. I did a 2-volume, here they are, book on Mad Magazine called Unconditionally Mad. There's volume 2. I'm sorry, it kind of blurs out. And I do talk about your dad and yourself. Um,
Okay. What do you
so
say?
I said some really good things, but
Okay, good.
I used archival interviews because I couldn't interview everyone, but I tried my best, and but here's my chance. So I did I think I got an archival interview where you're talking about how you got into Mad, but for our viewers and listeners, how did you get into Mad?
Um, I had I was in Southern California. This is my second stint in Southern California. I was kind of going into management. You know how you might be an artist and you might do creative stuff. You might be doing design, but if you do it well enough, or if you do it poorly enough, then you get I'm not sure which you get kind of kicked into management. So I had this group of artists and designers and stuff that I was managing. There were about 24 of them, and and they said, well, why don't you go get some more education? So I got a master's degree in management, and with a specialty in creative groups from Goddard College, a very, 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 very left-leaning college in Vermont, which I really enjoyed. Um, and then, my eyes were going bad because of all the books I'd been reading. I said, I never want to read another book as long as I live. Well, I still read. But anyway, so I thought, I got to draw cartoons. So I started drawing cartoons, and I sent some stuff to Mad Magazine, to Meglin, or who else was working with him then?
Ficarra, probably John
Yeah,
Ficarra.
yeah, Ficarra and Meglin.
Mhm.
And they said, because a couple of years earlier, they wanted something, and I said, no, I can't do it. I'm into this now, what I'm doing. And even my boss at the time said, are you sure you want to do that? And I said, yeah, I want to do that. So, he knew something I didn't. So now I was ready. And they said, okay, well, so they started, assigning me little projects and stuff. And what did I do? 13 features over, I think the last one was maybe around 2000, because that was from about 94 to 2000.
Yeah.
And oddly, my dad did that same number of features, but his were iconic and mine weren't so much. But I still did it, and I got to be one of the usual gang of idiots.
Yeah.
I think I even did one where one issue I did the border around the outside of the
Yeah.
magazine.
So at least you got a cover, even if it wasn't Girl of the Month.
Yeah, there were a couple of pieces that they used on covers of specials.
hmm
There was the
That's
guy
true.
eating a hot pizza and burning
Oh, that's
himself,
right. That's
but
right.
that was never intended as a cover. It was part of another thing.
Right. But
That's
at least
But
you
very
yeah,
got
cool.
that. Yeah. So
they were very easy to work with.
mhm.
Uh, you do roughs. They asked for changes. You did the changes. You did the art. You got the contract. They paid right away. It was good.
Mhm. And I'll ask you, are you right-handed or left-handed?
I am right-handed.
I always ask that because I'm curious. There's a magazine called Hogan's Alley, and they love to show photos of artists drawing and pointing out if they're left-handed or right. I'm left-handed, so I was just
Okay.
curious who's
All right.
left-handed and right-handed. There's no meaning behind that other than I'm just curious what your dominant drawing hand is. So, yeah.
So then I think in the late, when was it? About 2008, I started doing paintings, abstract painting.
You froze a little bit. Come back, Monty.
Yeah.
There we go.
So I've had a few shows, and then the last 4 years or so, I started doing, because I'm like an organ nerd, and by organ I mean classical French, Baroque stuff, that kind of thing. I started drawing portraits of great organ composers from history and not so great organ composers. And I had a collection of 28 of them. And so I did an exhibit at Trinity Episcopal Cathedral here in Portland, which is a very, very progressive church. And now I'm expanding it to 40 of them and putting a book together. Question is, who will buy this thing? And my son-in-law said, he's a marketing guy. He said, okay, but maybe, if you did like some portraits of Paul McCartney or somebody or something like that. I said, no, you don't understand, do you? No one's done this before, so I want to do it. And he said, well, okay, but, I'm not going to get rich. Well, no, but
yeah.
So that's a thing. And they're a little wonky. But like the dean of the cathedral said, well, yes, you've made them a little that way, but they are also respectful.
How are they done? Are they paintings, or are they pen and ink, or what are they? You got one.
Edit this part out.
Yeah, if you have an example, that'd be great. Did you have any other questions when he's coming back, or did we cover everything?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think that was pretty much everything.
All right. Yeah.
At least I got the Doc Rock block in there.
Yeah.
I was curious about that.
All right. So I don't really have any more, but so when he comes back, we can kind of. But I have one more question.
It started with this big portrait of Bach that I did to hang over in the 70s. So it's got kind of a 70s style to it, to hang over the piano and glare down at my daughter and make her practice, which didn't work. And then a musician friend of mine said, "Oh, you should colorize this. You should paint it, and then you should." So I thought that, and then I did another one. I did another one. So yeah, can you see this?
Oh yeah. Wow, yeah.
This is Sigrid Karg Ehlert, who is not a name that is bandied about in polite society, but he was a composer, and it's originally done in. I start with line, and then do watercolors over it. So it's got a certain funkiness to it,
right?
And it's not serious. But I've had the pleasure to meet these musicians, and most of the employment that you get is at progressive churches, but these are not dead serious people. They're fun. They're musicians.
Oh, okay, that's great.
So that's and I did work out little biographies and stuff. So that's the thing that I'm doing now. Will that result in wealth and fame? I don't know.
Well, I think this reminds me of the books that Drew Friedman does. The Drew Jewish Friedman. Cartoonists and things like that.
Yeah.
And I think if you could follow his lead in that market. Yeah.
It's arcane. That's the operative word. And I like arcane stuff that nobody's ever done. Stuff that, like my daughter said, and about the music that I do, because I do open mic nights. She said, and I do weird stuff. I do a lot of They Might Be Giants and things like that. She said, Dad, you just want to do things, and then you want people to say, what the hell? That's right.
Well, can I ask one question though, and get your take on this?
Yes.
No, okay.
We're done.
I want to ask you about your stance, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but your stance on censorship and especially the way things have really, it's changed over a lot. It's crazy the way people were attacking almost everything the past few years. What's your take on that, on censorship?
Well, I suppose there's propriety for the issue of propriety for certain audiences, but or readerships, and you got to be sensitive to who you're talking to and all that stuff. But no censorship.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
my stance. If
Yeah,
people should be able to choose what they want to do. I mean, you might. Well, Robert Crumb has been in my house here.
right.
In fact, he walked into the house and saw this ukulele on the wall. He picked it up and he started playing, "Oh, what a time I had with Minnie the Mermaid down in the bottom of the sea." And I thought, wow, it was like cosmic, because my dad used to sing that to me when I was like 2 years old to try to put me asleep. And why did he sing that? Because he sang the stuff that he sang in vaudeville. So I got
Right.
those old songs and stuff sung to me. But what did that have to do with it? Oh, propriety. Yes. No. Zap Comics and all the undergrounds. Yeah. Well, heck, you wouldn't take them to church and hand them out to people and stuff, but
Oh, you might. I don't know.
well, you might, but they they were trying to do something. They were trying to break the taboos and things.
Yeah.
And then
Right.
eventually the whole thing got absorbed into the culture. So that's
It sure
the
did.
way culture works.
Right.
No censorship, book burnings, and what is the deal with Florida anyway?
I don't know. You got
Yeah.
me. Oh, well, me and my brother, speaking of that kind of thing, bringing things into church, Mark knows this because we worked on the Crazy book, Crazy Magazine book.
Yeah.
Me and my brother used to pass Crazy Magazine around and start snickering in church. So,
Very good. What denomination was that?
Baptist.
Oh my gosh. Southern Baptist?
Uh-huh. Yes,
Wow.
sir.
I'm
Here in
very
Virginia.
impressed.
Well, we
Could've done
loved
that.
comedy. We loved comedy. We
Yeah.
loved everything to do with like SCTV, Saturday Night Live, and Steve Martin. Yeah, all that. We were
Did
young too. We were probably way too young to have any of that going
a
on. But
deacon come over and whack you with a cane?
no, my mother definitely smacked our hand though.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
No, crazy in church.
Or Mad Maxine.
Or Mad. Actually, I'll ask you this about Basil had one piece in Crazy, the very first issue. It was a
I
piece
forgot about
by
that.
Harlan Ellison. Do you know
Yep.
anything about that? It's one of those typical type of drawings with like a bubbling type of thing. But it was to accompany a Harlan Ellison piece about the future, I believe. Is
Yes. Yeah. Or lack of future,
I
should
do
say.
remember it, but I can't quite place the drawing. But I remember the thing. Harlan Ellison article.
okay.
Yeah.
If you don't remember, that's fine. It's just a little off the cuff. Our crazy book's almost done, and I didn't think you were going to say some elaborate comment that we'd have to readjust the book. But
No,
yeah, yeah.
I'll look it up though,
Okay, all right, very
if I
good.
can come up with any comments on it.
I think I asked Marv Wolfman about it, and I think he said it might have been something that Timely Marvel had in their archives, maybe. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm just going paraphrasing from
Yeah.
memory. He may have said
Although it
that.
looked contemporary, it looked like it was
It
done in the
did,
early
didn't it?
70s, so it didn't look like it was
Did it
an
look?
older.
Did it have the same? I mean, the little, not quite as smooth as the stuff that Timely would have had in there.
Yeah, it looked like
Yeah,
something
it
that
didn't
could have
look
been a plop
smooth.
cover. It could have been a plop cover,
Oh,
almost.
really?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, it's almost like
it's
they
very
went over to
stringy.
the DC offices and say, "Got any Wolverton artwork?" Yeah, we got an extra
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Oh, he
I don't
might
know.
have done that. You
Yeah.
never know,
Anyway,
since they're all
just
friendly.
curious. Uh,
Yeah. No, I don't know. I'd have to look at it.
and I don't have it in front of me. I'd have to dig it out, but that's okay. Um, One last question. Are you still doing you're still doing editorial cartoons after all this time, right?
Yes, he is. I
Yeah.
see him on
Yeah.
Facebook.
Okay. That's what I thought.
They're awesome.
Nope, he froze up again. Oh no.
Oh, darn.
Come back, Monty. Come back. I guess I will be editing this a little bit. Okay, you froze there for a second. What
Yeah,
I
you
was
froze
asking
too.
is if you were still doing your editorial cartoons.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, two a week.
Yeah, I see him on Facebook whenever you post them on
Yeah,
Facebook. I assume that's you posting. I'm not sure.
it is me posting.
Oh, okay, great, great.
Sometimes I think, why should I do this? Why don't I just send them to the syndicate? But nah, I post I post them on Facebook and Twitter, and
Okay,
then
yeah,
because I like to see there's there is one guy who is conservative who almost always comments on them. And I have known him since the fourth grade. And the last time I saw him at a high school reunion, I said, keep doing that, because it makes good
right.
controversy. And he said, yeah, keep doing what you're doing. So,
Oh, that's great. That's
yeah, it is.
great. Y'all have an understanding then.
We have an understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I follow you on Facebook. Uh, yep.
If you get too, it's an interesting thing because in the last, well, actually since the Trump administration, and also with the decline of newspapers
Yeah.
and the sensitivity, the editorial page used to be unhooked from any economic activity.
Right.
But now the reality is, if you get the too controversial in there, advertisers may leave.
Yeah.
So
That's so
editorial
crazy.
page editors
Yeah.
are, since the Trump administration, um, more inclined to do cartoons that are editorial cartoons, and some people like Jeff Katerba are really good at these kind of cartoons that are non-offensive, or like the things that oh boy, well, during the pandemic, I ate a lot and gained a lot of weight. Well, it's not an editorial cartoon, but
Right.
it's a thing that you would post on your refrigerator. And the really um, incendiary political commentary, to me, that's a political cartoon. It should have some teeth to it.
Right.
Fine, post a right-wing cartoon the next time and be balanced about it and stuff. But there should be
Right.
some political discourse there.
Right.
So my take is either that or it's my cartoons are just crappy. If the ones that are really that way don't get run a lot. If it's something that's, a little middle of the road, maybe,
Right.
good natured and so forth, then it'll be among the top published ones from my syndicate. So, but it's hard to predict, because the ones I think, I'm just cranking this thing out because I have to, and it's not very good and stuff, then it's published everywhere. And
Yeah.
whoa. Then I think,
Aren't
well,
you
this will be hard hitting. Everybody will see that, and doesn't get anything.
aren't you still the editor of Plainview? I'm
Plain
sorry.
truth. Plain truth.
Plain Truth.
Plainville. That's interesting. I am. I think I'm a contributing editor.
Hmm.
I don't.
Oh,
I
okay.
was at one time the managing editor and the. Well, I was secretary treasurer of the board, and what else was I? Something else. I was chief, and I wore all these different hats.
Okay. Oops.
No, I'm not that anymore. I'm because I moved from Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
but I still contribute to them. I still contribute articles.
Mhm.
I have one coming up in the future. It's not slated yet, on civility of all things, political civility. Don't know exactly where I'm going to come out on that one. I do other kind of inspirational stuff. And so, yeah, some people don't understand that. They didn't understand how my father could be an elder in his church and on the board of directors and do these kind of things.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
But, why not?
There was a time
yeah.
you could.
What's
I
the
mean,
problem?
there's many sides to people, so
I mean, I don't, it also depends on, what kind of church you're involved with. The one I go to now, which is Episcopalian, I've had people come up and say, "Hey, Wolverton, wow, you're Basil Wolverton, you're related to him," and they know all about
right.
stuff. I mean, you couldn't, it's hard to be, well, it's hard to be offensive over there, but not that I'm trying to. So it all depends, and then you're familiar with I don't want to say the other extreme, but Southern Baptists,
Right.
Mark, did you have any
It
other
was
questions?
pretty.
Mark,
No,
did
I
you have any
didn't.
other questions? Okay.
No,
So I just
no.
wanted to ask Monty one last question then. Apart from your Canadian tour that you're doing a seminar or something or other, are you doing any other appearances in the next few months or anything, convention or anything?
The only thing I will do in the Canadian tour that I know about is my financial report, since I'm the treasurer of the outfit.
Okay.
And I always conclude it's a slide thing. I always conclude with one of my father's apocalyptic illustrations of people burning up and stuff. And that's all, folks.
All
You
right.
can't do that with every organization, but the editorial cartoonists appreciate it.
Okay.
What was your next question?
But any other appearances in Canada or the States, in the next few months?
No.
Okay. That's fine.
The only thing I do is my bi-weekly open mic night where I play 3 songs, and that's that. And people say, "What the hell?"
Do you do any Zappa?
I can't I may have done one a year ago, but I can't. It doesn't come to mind, or I was considering doing it.
Oh, okay.
Do you guys know They Might Be Giants?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I do a lot of that because it's
cool.
it's weird, it's funky, it's
Yeah.
and some Dylan and then a few some Stones and stuff like that.
Okay.
And
Yeah, you got good taste.
well, yeah, and the young people there go, "What? Huh? What's he doing?" And
So no Taylor Swift?
I haven't done any Taylor Swift. No.
Never too late to
I'll-
start. Anyway.
I'll take that under advisement.
Okay. And then I know you're talking about the book you want to do, but do you have any other books in the works or anything that you'd like to plug or anything you want to plug?
No, except for I will say that eventually, because I've asked about it, the third installment of Sadowski's biography is coming out eventually.
Okay.
Okay.
I asked the
Again, I have
folks at
volume 2.
Graphics about it because I happened to see them at a conference, and they said, "Yes, we intend to do this." So Greg has other projects lined up, but I know he's going to do this thing. And it is, it's a limited distribution, but I'm very happy with it because it will be the, sort of the definitive biographical work for people who want to do a deep dive into my dad's work.
Right.
All right.
So,
Well,
anyway,
I think that kind of wraps it up. Unless you have any questions or any sort of words of wisdom, Monty, before we go.
I can't think of.
Okay.
So I'm sure if I tried.
All right. Okay, we'll leave it at that. And I want to thank both my guests, Mark Slade and Monte Wolverton, for being my special guests today on the Fun Ideas podcast. And we'll have new guests and new conversations next time. And we'll see you next time. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.